Like, what am I doing? I'm doing it for the show. Field of 68 till I die.
This is the Field of 68 After Dark Show, the only place that you need to be for college hoops every single night.
All right, welcome into a Sunday night edition of the Field of 68 After Dark, presented by our partners over at Bet Rivers. I'm Jeff Goodman, joined by the Miller brothers, Sean and Archie. And guys, 1 week from tonight, we will know these 68 teams and the matchups, but there's plenty still to be decided in the next 7 days. And we'll talk about the significance of Wisconsin's loss today and the severity of Johnny Davis's injury, whether Michigan and Memphis punch their tickets, and we'll also hand out some hardware. Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, our first team All-Americans. We're on Sirius XM ESPN Radio Channel 84 each and every night. You can also find us on the Field of 68 YouTube channel, also on Twitter. All right, guys, let's start with the Big Ten. Obviously, there was a lot of action in the Big Ten today. Everybody thought Wisconsin was going to wrap this thing up with a win against Nebraska at home. That did not happen. Johnny Davis got hurt with about 17 and a half minutes left in the game, a flagrant foul. He was hit, I think, in the face by Trey McGowan's, and then he tripped and fell, and McGowan's kind of fell on him, and he limped off the court, and McGowan's was ejected. I don't think, from what I'm hearing, it's all that serious with a right ankle sprain. But again, he had a boot on as he left. This is a guy that I've said all year I think is the National Player of the Year favorite. We'll get into that later today if I still believe that. But Greg Gard said he's optimistic that Johnny Davis will play in the Big Ten tourney. But how damaging was this, Arch, to Wisconsin? That, again, most people had somewhere on the back of the two line.
You know, Jeff, number one, take out the tournament and the seed. They had a chance to win the outright Big Ten title. That's a big deal, you know, when you're in the Big Ten. You know, there's a difference in saying outright and a difference in saying shared. And to win the outright Big Ten title was a big deal to close up shop after the Purdue game in the middle of the week. To be able to handle business by 1 point today in the Kohl Center on senior night and to be the outright champs, to me, is probably more disappointing for Wisconsin than, you know, moving forward. I'd still believe them being a 2 seed is reasonable. Could they slip out with an early Big Ten loss in the conference tournament? Yeah, but if you evaluate their resume, it's going to be as strong as any of the 2 seeds that are up there. They're still, you know, considered Big Ten regular season co-champs, but it's an odd game. And I think before you get into Wisconsin, give Nebraska credit. I mean, they're playing very good. They've won 3 straight road games at Penn State, at Ohio State, and then at Wisconsin. You just don't win on the road in the Big Ten if you're not playing well. And a big key to what they're doing here late is Alonzo Verge has kind of caught fire. You know, he's playing like the all Pac-12 sort of player that he was for Arizona State. He had 26 today in the Kohl Center.
You say Pac-12, Arch? Jeez, that's amazing. That's like the first time in 6 months.
That was last year's Pac-12. But he's playing well for him. And you got to give Nebraska some credit because Wisconsin did, even though Johnny Davis went out, they did have late in the game a 3-possession lead. Should have been able to close it out, and they didn't. And, you know, give Nebraska credit. Wisconsin's probably disappointed. But in the grand scheme of things, unbelievable season for Greg Gard and those guys. As they head to the Big Ten tournament, they should be excited to go into postseason with a great seed. And, you know, let's hope Johnny Davis is okay. He had 10 points in 11 minutes before he went out. Let's keep that in mind. He's a good player.
He's not a good player.
Hey, think about this, though. I mean, you just have to take inventory about Nebraska. They were 1-16 in the Big Ten, going to Penn State, following that up, like you just mentioned, at Ohio State and at Wisconsin. They had to finish their season with 3 consecutive road games, and they were 1-16 in the Big Ten. They've won 3 in a row. And we're talking about, especially the last 2, a tournament team in Ohio State and the Big Ten champ in Wisconsin. So man, Fred Hoiberg, and there's a lot that you feel good about as a coach when things are going really, really well. It's easy to laud these guys with praise, but sometimes the most difficult thing to do as a coach is what he just did. And he established some momentum for the future. And you have to give him and his staff a lot of credit and his players, because I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be 1-16 going to those 3 road games in a row. Nope. And guess what? He's won them all. Now he's 4-16 and played a big spoiler role today.
And this will also be the first time as they enter the Big Ten tournament, they're on a high. You know, for their program to go to the Big Ten tournament, I think they play Northwestern in the opening round. I mean, you have to say to yourself, they have a chance to get that one. If you win one and that'd be 4 in a row, it may steamroll those guys to a good finish. And credit to them, like you said, because very difficult to do what they're doing. But they're playing very well on offense. A lot of it has to do with Alonzo Verge.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, they would get Iowa. They would get Iowa if they get past Northwestern, which, again, they're playing with house money in their minds too right now, right? I mean, you got no pressure at this point. You won your one conference game, so you're playing loose. Here's what I think it says more than anything, guys, is how important Johnny Davis is. And I've said it all year long, and people kind of laughed at it. And maybe I went too far by saying I'm not sure Wisconsin is an NIT team without Johnny Davis. Maybe that's a little too far, but it just shows the importance. They lost at home against Providence without Johnny Davis. Providence obviously now a hell of a team, and you lose at home to Nebraska on senior night without Johnny Davis for half the game. And they're a team that wins close games, guys. Why? Because they have Johnny Davis. He's that guy that can get a bucket, great from mid-range. He's just tough to guard. And Brad Davidson, listen, when you take him out there, too much pressure is on Brad Davidson.
You know, here's the thing about Wisconsin, though. We've talked a lot this year about Providence. And you look at their analytics and where they check in, and you look at their record and the games they won, and the two don't match. And everybody gets upset that we're paying attention to analytics too much. And there are, I think, some examples that you're right. But I'll tell you, today's a great example. And I know he got hurt. Johnny Davis got hurt. But if you look at Wisconsin's analytics and you look at where they click in on offense, defense, they've had far, far better teams than the one they currently have. And maybe it's Jeff, what you mentioned, that because he as an individual player is so good. But I remember as far back as Las Vegas when they played St. Mary's in the Maui tournament. And Wisconsin is vulnerable in the NCAA tournament. They are. They're very well coached.
Nobody's denying that, Sean. Yeah. Sean, nobody is denying that. But the facts are the facts, and the facts are they've won at Purdue. They've won at Indiana. Yeah. They've won at the RAC. They've won at the Breslin Center. Like, when do we at some point say, you know what, screw the analytics here? They just win games, and they win games in tough places. I don't care how many points they win and by. They win.
What seed do you think? I mean, let's give them a seed. Let's say they win a couple in the Big Ten.
I say they should get a 2 as long as they don't lose. I don't know who they got in their first game here coming out. I'll tell you.
They're going to be the 2. They're going to be the 2 seed, but their overall body of work through November through March, I think, gives them an opportunity to get a 2 seed. If
they beat the winner of Maryland, Michigan State, Sean, they should lock in a 2 seed.
And here's my point. My point, though, is this. The argument for analytics is what happened today. Look, there's 2 seeds that aren't going to lose at home today.
They played the final 17 and a half. Come on. Without arguably the best player in the country.
I just covered Nebraska's record. I mean, come on now. I mean, Baycott's not walking in the door anytime soon, like from playing for Nebraska against Wisconsin. Like Duke and Carolina, North Carolina has got some players, and they're going to be in a tournament. And how would you like to play them in the NCAA tournament? They're capable of winning. But Nebraska, I mean, they're playing for pride, and let's tip our hat to Fred Hoiberg. But when you have the Big Ten championship on the line and you're at home, and I know they went through that, all I'm saying is when you look at their analytics, it makes sense. And here's the only thing analytics say. In order for them to advance and play to the level of the seed they get, they're going to have to outperform how they've played this year. And that, if you just think about it in those terms, Wisconsin will have.
Why are we using predictive metrics now? We should be going on what they've done.
If I'm the guy, they're in my bracket and they're the 2 seed, You respect them. They're great. But like, I'll go back to my day when we played Wisconsin in those back-to-back years in the regional final.
They had
If you would have looked at their analytics, I mean, it looked apart. And I think Arch, either they won the Big Ten or they were right there to do it. But all I'm saying is they're very, very vulnerable. And like we do with Ed Cooley, I think to some degree, what you have to say about a guy like Greg Gard and his staff, their whole is better than the sum of their 100%. Parts of their talent. And there's a lot of teams that, you get into these single elimination opportunities on a neutral court. One guy gets in foul trouble. I mean, things happen. I don't know if they're going to have the power to plow through, regardless of how good Johnny.
Not denying it. I'm not denying any of that. I'm saying they earned it. All right, let's move on. Michigan earned a huge win today in Columbus against Ohio State. No Juwan Howard, no Hunter Dickinson, who had a stomach ailment and was unable to play. And oh, by the way, Caleb Houston, supposedly their star freshman, 0 for 10 from the field. And they go into Columbus and come away with a huge win. And Devontae Jones, to me, he was the answer. The Coastal Carolina transfer who struggled for a good portion of this year. He's been really good over the last probably month or so. And he had 21-6. Terrence Williams stepped up, played well. Diabate has been awesome. I can't wait to see him a year from now because I think he's going to make a absolutely monumental jump. And now Michigan 11-9 in league play. They get Indiana in the quarters. Is that the quarters, Arch? Or is that the second round? What's that called?
That would be the quarters.
That's the quarters? Okay. So they get Indiana, and there's pressure. There's more pressure in Indiana than there is in Michigan right now. I think Michigan.
You think?
Yeah, I think Michigan locked up a spot right now. I think they locked up. They're set now.
They have 13 losses.
They do. They do.
When you get down to this part of the season and you start to decipher who's in and who's not, take the team who's lost the most games out of the pool and put them right at the chopping block because they punish you for maximum losses, not wins at the end of the day when it comes to the bottom line. Now, Indiana, I think, I'm not sure how many losses they have. Maybe it's 11 or 12, but Michigan can't afford a first round loss in this Big Ten tournament to go 17-14.
So do you think it's a knockout game?
Yeah.
You do?
I don't think that if Michigan loses to Indiana in the first round of the Big Ten tournament at 17-14, they should feel that they're in. They only have 5 quad one wins. Their non-conference has not one signature non-conference win. They played a hard schedule, but doesn't have a non-conference signature win. At 17-14, they would either be the last team in the tournament or they're getting left out at 14 losses. Yeah. I think Indiana, I'm not sure, where they all stack, but I would say the winner of that game is staying alive. The loser of that game is not getting in the tournament.
Hey, January, February, Martelli. He's a great coach.
Hey, last I checked, he doesn't have Jameer Nelson and Delonte West.
That is for sure. And if you've ever coached against those two guys, that is, especially Jameer. But he is a good coach. Juwan Howard is so lucky to have him on staff. And, the head coach gets a lot of credit, and rightfully so. There's a lot of pressure on him. But the staff and the head coach really are the entire – I mean, they're the group that moves the needle and makes things happen. And if you just think about it, under the circumstances that happened to Michigan, not a lot of programs could continue to thrive the way they have. They have an excellent, experienced, really, really good coach and a good staff with them. And I think Phil, he needs to feel the credit. He deserves a lot of the credit to.
He'll like it. He'll like to get the credit. We know that. We know Phil will take
coach. I mean, he is.
You made a good point, though, Jeff, in terms of Michigan. When they're successful, Devontae Jones has played very, very well.
Yeah.
I mean, he was good today. And Ohio State, a lot like Duke last night, in that second half of the game, they could not defend any combination of ball screen that was set. And his ability to play off it, make the reads, and make some good plays was really good. But I feel bad for Ohio State. They play without Kyle Young this whole week. He doesn't play again today. I mean, he's a fifth-year senior who came back. Zed Key plays 7 minutes with an ankle today, and they basically, have to run with, 6, 7
Archie,
guys, but
Hunter
they're
Dickinson
struggling.
didn't play.
What's that?
Did Hunter Dickinson play?
No, he didn't play.
I mean, come
No,
on.
he didn't.
man.
He didn't play today. But Ohio State has been, I would say, of all of the Big Ten schools, Illinois and Ohio State all year has had to deal with this,
Yeah.
and they dropped a tough one today.
But you play Michigan without Hunter Dickinson. That's a big
difference.
Right.
And you go on the road to Ohio State,
And they were down at half.
By the way, that could have been an elimination game for them today, and they won.
And they were down at half and came back and won the game. Yeah.
And that's why, again, Phil Martelli and the situation that he's in and Michigan in general, that's what makes the conference tournament special when you have a team like Michigan. I mean, there's so much at stake for those guys. And you think about it, how long ago the season started, it's coming down right now to these next 5 days for them.
I'm going to say, I'll say this, that Michigan's game in the Big Ten tournament, there is not a bigger game in college basketball in terms of the conference tournaments and what's going on. That is a major league heavyweight show in Indianapolis on Friday night. Indiana's going to have the crowd as well. And Michigan's going to have to play a road game in that Big Ten tournament.
I think it'll be I've said this over and over. I feel like the NCAA tournament committee is smart enough to know they need brand names in the first four. They had it last year with UCLA, Michigan State. They always try to do it. One of the two is usually a matchup involving at least one brand name. Well, Indiana and Michigan certainly are that. Memphis is playing itself off that kind of first four right now. Who else are you going to put in there? So I think you're going to see one of Indiana or Michigan in the first four. And I think, honestly, it's Indiana if they win. And it could be Michigan if they lose. So like those two, I could see both being in the first four if Indiana beats Michigan in this game. In different games of the first four.
You guys may know this, Jeff. Your guys may know this more. Is this an odd year where there aren't a lot of bid stealers?
There could be. I mean, like A-10 could be a bid stealing league.
I mean, the A-10 am I right in saying the Atlantic 10 is a one bid league with Davidson?
Yeah. Right now, VCU's got a chance.
So from a bid stealing point, though, like, the Mountain West is secure with 4. They're going to get 3, 4. Pac-12 is going to get 3. So
unless like somebody crazy wins the Pac-12, right? Somebody crazy,
Oregon State's
wins the ACC.
Make a run.
What's that?
Oregon State's probably going to make a run.
They got tired last year, man. They got really tired at the end.
They ran out of gas after last year.
They needed a year off. I think they'll recalibrate and be fine a year from now. But there's no more gas in that tank right now. Yep.
Well,
no.
Wayne Tinkle got paid and may have got a little, may have eaten a little bit too much over the offseason or something. I don't know, but he deserved to get paid. Good for Wayne Tinkle. All right, Illinois gets the win over Iowa tonight.
What a game!
And again, it looked like it was going to be kind of an irrelevant game for the most part. And instead, Illinois kind of got down early. Iowa was, I think they had one stretch where they hit 12 straight shots from the field.
They're an absolute joke now in terms of how they're playing on offense. If you watched them against Michigan the other night and then on the road at Illinois, both road games, they played as well in these stretches as any team I've seen offensively. And Fran McCaffrey doesn't get enough credit for how he evaluates, recruits, develops, and his style of play. They're a unique team to play in the Big Ten. They're not like everybody else. And Keegan Murray's obviously an All-American. And but Illinois, give him credit. I thought they really fought and scrapped. Iowa they went 10 for 22 from the foul line. For like a team like them to go 10 for 22 from the foul line, that doesn't make any sense. And Chris Murray goes 1 for 7 from the foul line.
Killed him.
And it's an outlier game from the foul line. Iowa, in my opinion, handled the game, should have won it. But it's tough to win in Champaign. And Brad's done an unbelievable job with this team. And for them to get the 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament with what they've dealt with injury-wise, I think they even had a guy out today. I think Granderson was out today. But kudos to those guys. And Kofi, he delivered, man. I mean, he's as good as it gets in college basketball in terms of being able to do what he does. And it was a great game. I think Iowa is a very dangerous team to play against moving forward.
Yeah, we watched, Jeff, Arch and I, we watched actually the Iowa and Michigan game together. Yeah. And man, I tell you what, Iowa, they are the team you don't want to play in the NCAA tournament. Like, again, they're number 4.
Why, Sean? Yeah,
number
why?
4 in America on offense. And the seed won't reflect that because they're much better on offense than they are on defense. But I'll tell you, on a single game, 40 minutes, depending on who you are, like, for example, Duke, with the youth of Duke, if you're a young group and you have to guard Iowa, the way they move and the way they cut, the way they can score. And by the way, Keegan Murray, he's as good as there is in college basketball offensively. I mean, you look at how they utilize him, very, very difficult matchup. And again, I think for Illinois to be able to beat them, it's kind of what I said. You watched Wisconsin, and I know they had the injury. They had to beat Nebraska to win it outright at home. And then you watch in Iowa and Illinois, what a great game. And I think that says a lot about Illinois. And Alfonso Plummer, has there been a bigger addition to a team than what he's meant towards Illinois?
No.
His shooting alone, I think, has added an ingredient that's made them who they are.
Yeah, Trent Frazier didn't play well today, but he's the heartbeat of Illinois' team. He saved their season when they built around Andre Curbelo at the beginning of the season, the preseason. Right. And to me, Trent Frazier was going to take more of an off-the-ball reserved role, and he became their ultimate go-to guy, put the ball in his hands a lot like he had earlier in his career. And he showed just unbelievable heart this season. He is by far and away the MVP for Illinois' team. And, give those guys credit, though, at Illinois. I think they really defend. I think they have a unique player that you just don't see when you go up against him. And Sean's comment on Plummer, with losing Io last year at 20-some points a game and the closing ability that he had, for them to add a guy that probably made, I don't have it in front of me, but I'll bet Plummer made close to 100 threes this year. I mean, he is such an unbelievable pickup in the portal. Yep. And a great compliment to what they've done. And without him, I'm not sure that they're as good as they would have been. But they've had improvement across the board from a lot of their role guys. Granderson. I think the other guy that was really good is Hawkins. I mean, he's gotten a lot better. He played 37 minutes today and had 9 points and 11 rebounds. But Illinois, they won the Big Ten tournament last year, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they're the favorite going to the Big Ten tournament this year. I think they have a great chance to advance again.
All right. The Memphis Tigers have now won 10 of their last 11, including going 8-1 since Imani Bates went down. I'll tell you why I'm still not buying Penny's Tigers completely when we come back.
Clear 90 seconds.
All right, let's get some questions going in the chat. You got
Franny's son didn't play in that game tonight, Jeff.
Who didn't?
Franny's son, Pat McCaffrey, didn't play in that game.
He's been hurt. That
was a big loss. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's really talented. Really talented.
He's good.
Yep. All right, I got a question. I got a question for Sean and Arch here from Michael B. What was the city that you guys liked recruiting the most?
Visiting or quality of recruit?
You can answer that however you'd like, Arch.
1 minute.
City. Well, I tell you, some of the best players that I've coached from my time is Chicago. I had a lot of success in the Illinois, Chicago area, especially at Dayton. Had some great winners. But to be honest with you, if I'm going recruiting, I'm probably not picking Chicago.
Go warm.
Of all the places. I don't really have a favorite city. I guess whoever likes me is the city that I like going to.
I would answer it this way. I wouldn't say a city per se, but I would say cities in the state of Ohio. I think that state combines unbelievable high school programs and coaches that have really worked at it and do things the right way and coach their guys. And they combine it with travel teams that do a good job as well. I mean, the state of Ohio, very understated.
Yeah, I'm going to Florida. I'm going somewhere warm, guys, if I want to go recruiting.
San Diego is probably the best city to go recruiting.
All right, welcome back. to the Field of 68 After Dark. I am Jeff Goodman, joined here by Sean and Archie Miller, and we are presented by Bet Rivers. You can find us on channel 84 on Sirius XM, ESPNU Radio. You can also find us on YouTube, the After Dark channel, and on Twitter live every single night, 11 o'clock Eastern. The Memphis Tigers are rolling. They are rolling in Beale Street. They got Ja Morant going. Now they got Penny going. And, you know, he's pumping his chest out now saying, like, you idiots, you challenged me and look at what happened. We are now absolutely rolling. They didn't win the AAC, but they swept Houston today. Huge. And they put themselves now.
They're the best team in that league right now.
Well, they swept Houston. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. They did. Now, being the best team in that league, I feel like that is a mid-major league, especially Houston. They beat Houston twice without being whole, right? They lost Sasser and Mark, their two best offensive players, about 10 games into the season. That's hard. Kelvin's done one hell of a job with that team, but have either of you ever dealt with anything to that extent in your careers? And how do you reconfigure at that point?
Well, it's so hard because it happened so early as well. You know, you forget in some ways you learn to play and grow without them being there. But when we saw Houston in Maui, which was played this year in Las Vegas, they looked eerily similar to the team that they had a year ago. And I think that, I don't know if anybody would have disagreed. You just kind of predicting them out. You saw them as a high seed in this year's tournament, and what they've had to overcome and put back together, they have done a great job. But I tell you what, Memphis, a lot of people were doubting them, especially at that one juncture, and you didn't know how it was going to go. It was almost like a Y in the road. And almost from that moment forward, they had a couple really close games that they won. They've never looked back.
The best medicine, Arch, the best medicine is the AAC.
The best medicine's the AAC. I'll give you that. There's winnable games for those teams, and Memphis's talent level is significantly higher than anybody else in the league. They also have the best home court. If you saw that home court today, Memphis is rocking in there. But I don't think Houston's been dominated, regardless of who's on their team, like they were today. They got completely dominated. They were out-rebounded by 7. They turned the ball over 20 times, and Memphis shot 46% from 3, 48 from the floor. That's total domination against the Houston team that defends. But I will say this, Memphis's key turning point to the season, it's no secret, it's addition by subtraction. And whether it's an injury or whether it was just at the end of the day, chemistry, whatever it may have been, by Amoni Bates taking a step back, allowed the team to take all of the nonsense that was going on in and around every other week, it seemed like, away from them. And they started to play their best basketball. And sometimes it takes an injury for guys to get growth. Sometimes you got to rally. In this case, is addition by subtraction. Memphis' success is no secret to why they're playing well. They have good chemistry right now. They look really good on both ends of the floor. They're super talented. I wouldn't want to see them as a low seed if I was a real high seed, because when you go to the jump ball as a head coach and you have 10 guys standing out there, you look at your guy and you match him up against the opposing guy and you say, did we win this battle? All right, let's go to the next guy. Do we win this battle? And you say, how many of the battles can we win? 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5? I'm not sure there's very many teams that when you lace up against Memphis, you say, maybe. No, they may have us on this one. Memphis can line up with the best of them and win a lot of head-up battles.
Sean, I got the matchup for you. The Memphis first-round matchup. Who wins this one? St. Mary's, who I know you like and you've seen. Memphis, because that is the contrast of all contrasts.
St. Mary's. But Jeff, what I find mind-boggling, and look, why does Memphis win? Their defense is top 30 in the country. They block shots, right? Top 5 in America in blocking shots. And they're a team that plays with energy and effort on defense. And with that talent, that right there is going to get them over the hump in a lot of nights. But I remember you guys corrected me because I said something like 370 or something like that in November. And you said there's 358 teams. That's impossible. So here's the deal. Tonight, it's over. The regular season is over. Teams steal the ball the most against Memphis, meaning they check in after every game's played at 358 in terms of taking care of the ball and not getting it stolen. And what I find hard to believe is you ever want to question their talent? That's all you need to know. The fact that they're having as much success as they are to be bad in such a critical and crucial area. And you know what? Sometimes in the NCAA tournament, you're right, Arch, shot blocking talent on a given night, they can beat you. But I remember Robbie Hummel said it to me in November. I was talking about, I can't believe how they're turning the ball over. And he said, well, last year they turned the ball over. And it's just like to turn the ball over at that rate, it's almost impossible to win. And yet they are. And I think though, at the end of the day,
they're so much more talented than the American Conference.
That's right. That's the key. I mean, listen, Wichita State is down. Cincinnati is down. Tulsa is down. You beat those. You beat East Carolina. You beat UCF. They're just average. Tulane, Temple's down. USF stinks. Like, this league is a mid-major league. So everybody is jumping on the bandwagon now because they have won 10 of their last 11. And all I'm saying is, you know what? Slow the brakes a little bit here. That's all I'm saying. Like, I want to see more. And I don't know if we're going to see more until they get to the NCAA tournament. And ultimately it's going to be a matchup.
You feel Memphis is a lock over SMU? SMU swept them.
Yeah, but you know what? Memphis swept Houston. So I think that makes them a lock. I do. I just don't think. Here's the hard part.
Here's their non-conference, Jeff. Their non-conference is pretty good. It's 41. They've beaten St. Louis, who's a quad solid 1 or 2 game. Western Kentucky and Virginia Tech non-conference. They lost to Iowa State. They lost to Georgia. They lost at Ole Miss. They lost at home to Murray State. They beat Alabama. And then they lost. They're in league play at that point in time.
Arch's statistical ability, Jeff, you just got to be careful making a blanket statement because, I mean, his talent in that area is second to none.
But my point is everybody just throws it up on the wall. If you look at Memphis and you break them down.
You're right.
Their only success really
Alabama.
is the conference play with a win against Alabama. And at home, and maybe Virginia Tech's going to count for them. St. Louis is going to count, but they lost to Iowa State, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Murray State. Yeah. I don't know if their resumes is strong. We don't know how they're evaluating the American in that league. And maybe the 2 Houston games do it, but I will say this, they have to be the favorite heading into the American Conference tournament.
Yeah, Jeff, I would say, I mean, that's what drives, I think, college basketball crazy, coaches too included, is, you know, you think about Ole Miss and Georgia in the SEC. In particular, Georgia struggled, but Ole Miss has as well. Both of those teams beat Memphis. So then you say, well, what happens if Memphis played in the SEC? I know they beat Alabama at home, but what would their record be when you play 18 conference games in the SEC after they played the non-conference schedule that Arch read off? Like,
I'm in agreement with you.
When you're in that conference, your bread is buttered in November and December. You want to bring as many high quality games and wins to the table. And then you get in the conference play and you already know you'll never be able to get that respect in the quad 1 games that these other conferences get. But you did your work early, like Gonzaga. Gonzaga, by the time it's Christmas, Mark Few, you know, he gets his eggnog, he's in, and he has a high seed. It doesn't matter because he has played so many quad 1 games and he's had so much success that it's a wrap. Memphis has to do the exact same thing as Gonzaga. When they don't do that, I don't know if you can give them the credit right now until they get through their conference tournament. I would agree with you.
Like, Jeff, if we lined up VCU, Dayton, St. Louis, and Memphis and took the names off the top of the sheet, you think Memphis's resume is better than those 3 programs from the Atlantic 10?
No, probably not. Probably not. But they beat Houston twice, and people, the analytics love Houston. I don't. The analytics love Houston. That's why Memphis is going to get in.
Look at Dayton. Dayton took 3 quad 4 losses to start the year. They went to Florida, beat Miami, beat Kansas, and beat Belmont. They have a loss at SMU. They beat Virginia Tech, lost at Ole Miss, and then they went into conference play with a 14-4 record and just beat Davidson. In the last game, they're 22-9 and 14-4. I'm not sure what the difference is in Memphis and Dayton in terms of resume. If you're counting 2 wins against Houston, I'm telling you, like a lot like Michigan, boy, I tell you what, there's not a lot to grab onto when you look at the non-conference resumes.
There's not, and the committee has not generally over the last few years given the benefit of the doubt to a team that hasn't scheduled difficult in the non-conference.
That's a very important point. We talked about the ACC in Wake Forest, and Steve Forbes, I don't know if he was named the ACC Coach of the Year, should be.
They haven't come out with it yet.
What a great job the guy's done. I mean, but I'm telling you, reading his non-conference schedule and just being him, he was building his program. He was trying to establish confidence and success in wins. He wasn't worried about his resume. And then guess what? His team got better. And at the end of the day, his team was probably better than he even anticipated, but they're going to punish him in Wake Forest for that non-conference schedule. They did not challenge themselves, and whatever ends up happening, his non-conference, that's why November and December, we talked about it to nauseam on this show. It is so important that both you and the league you play in plays the right schedule and wins. And when you don't, guess when you start looking back on it right now in March, and you say, God, if we would have just scheduled a little differently or won that one game, or if this other team in our league, was a little bit more successful before we played them, guess what? We might have another team in the NCAA tournament. And, that's the Pac-12 as well. There's those 3 teams at the top, Arizona, right? UCLA and USC. The 4th team, you can make a hard argument. Hey, no one's really emerged or deserved.
That's the problem. Oregon's
no 4th team.
That's the problem for the Pac-12 is Oregon's been not Oregon.
Right. But Colorado and Oregon and like Washington State and some of the teams, it's just the bottom and the middle were not good. And it hurts your ability to get that extra team in the tournament.
Yep. All right. There is a rising star in the coaching ranks in just his first season. I'm going to tell you about the youngest coach in the country and why his current school may want to start to put together a list of potential replacements when we come back.
You're already
clear 90.
You're already moving him on. He hasn't even played a tournament game yet.
That's right. I'm already moving Drew Valentine on. I'm already giving him another job. How about that? I'm just saying he's going to get one.
Maybe I can get the Longwood job.
He's going to get one. You watch. Doesn't take much these days.
We need some dominoes to fall, Jeff, or I'm going to be on field 8 for the next 6 years.
Hey, you're getting better and better and better. Everybody likes you.
If you could get this guy from Longwood out of there, that would really help the cause.
Archie, the listeners,
UMass. We can get you to Amherst, Massachusetts, Arch. I'll find you a house.
No, I'm good.
I'll
call DK. Right. I'll call DK. I think he still has a house there. I'll call Derek.
There you go. All right. We got any questions, Greg?
We do. I just want to quickly say that the chat does not think that would be such a bad thing for you, Arch. They really enjoy your presence on the field of 68. So just keep that.
Well, then we're gonna start negotiating
a new deal.
We're gonna start negotiating a new deal, starting with an actual deal.
30.
All right, I got a quick question from Keith that I really like. Is there a final or a first 4 team that can advance to a Final Four just like UCLA did last year?
Yes.
Who?
Yeah.
Whoever's in the first 4 who wins a game in the first 4 has
10 seconds.
Unbelievable advantage moving into that next game. The chances of the team who wins the first 4 advancement and plays into that next team, it should be favored, but they had a chance to win that game and move on.
All right, that is Archie Miller. Whenever we go to break, we still keep the chat going. If you're watching the YouTube channel, you know that. If you're watching us on Twitter, you know that. Loyola Chicago beat Drake today to punch their ticket They are now one of 3 teams that has earned the automatic berth. I'm Jeff Goodman here with the Miller brothers, Sean Miller, Archie Miller, Drew Valentine, 30 years old, guys, a rookie head coach going dancing already. Back to back, the school for the first time since 1963 and 64. Porter Moser did a great job with that program, left for Oklahoma last offseason, and Drew Valentine was elevated. They lose to UNI in the final game of the regular season. And like, all right, what do the Ramblers have to do to get back? Well, the easiest thing to do, win the conference tournament. That's what they did, and they did it with their defense, guys. Their defense was spectacular in these 3 games. They held Drake to 58 today, UNI to 43, Bradley to 50. In those 3 games, those 3 teams, and I know you guys are both defensive-minded guys. Listen to these numbers. 25% shooting, 15% from 3 in the second half of those 3 games.
Well, Drake had beaten him
and
twice.
You hit the nail on the head, Jeff. Drew did an amazing job. And what you have to also give him credit for, although he wasn't the head coach, he was a part of that program, helped grow it, build it, and then took over. But there's a difference between being the assistant and head coach. But Porter Moser would also share in the joy of today. I mean, you think about the program that he built as the head coach, hired Drew, right?
Absolutely.
Empowered Drew to become the head coach. And some of what you saw today was in place a year ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago. And it's really, I think that's the hardest thing to do is, sometimes when you leave and now he's building Oklahoma, but he should really feel great about the culture that he left, the replacement that really is there because of him, and a lot of the great things that he had in place. Drew did an excellent job of taking advantage of it. And you're right, Jeff. Hey, they've had a really good season, but if they don't win the conference tournament, man, I tell you what,
They're
there's
not
some
getting in.
sleepless nights, right?
Probably not.
I mean, Drake, they didn't win the league. They didn't win the regular season.
Right.
Think about
They were
that.
4th. They got the 4th seed.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about that, and I think Sean would agree with me. Like, let's just take Lucas Williamson.
Yeah.
He played in the Final Four in 2018.
Right.
He's still playing, and
valuable.
Those moments that those guys go through when you're in the tournament, you make the runs. A lot of these guys were on last year's team that even advanced. I mean, I wouldn't want to play them in the NCAA tournament.
They beat Illinois last year. They've got that it. They've got that feel.
Going on, man. And it's a great
tournament
job.
experience.
Great
That's
job.
right.
Great job by their staff. And they got tough guys. They know how to win. They got a great style. The funny thing is in today's game, like you said, Drake averaged 80 points a game against them in the regular season sweep. And then today they hold him to 58 points in the conference championship game. So I wouldn't want to.
All right, I got a question for you, Sean. Here's a question for you. So Drew's 30 years old. How much of an advantage or a disadvantage? Where is it an advantage? Where is it a disadvantage for him coaching? Because I feel like I was talking to John Shire about this the other night on the bench before their game. I've known John since he was 14, 15 years old. And I said, like, this could be, and I think it already has been with him, a major recruiting advantage because kids being recruited by a 33-year-old, a 30-year-old, they can relate to him better than they can Jim Boeheim, Jim Larinaga, Cliff Ellis, some of these guys that are obviously in their 70s, and maybe even better than guys in their 40s or 50s.
I don't know, Jeff. I mean, you could also make the argument the other way and say sometimes guys that are that young, although it appears on the surface to be that, where you really get a player's trust is when you guide him through the obstacles and the tough times. And sometimes while that's happening, they really don't understand it or appreciate it, but they eventually will. And that's, to me, the hardest part and the most rewarding part of coaching is not the fun and games and just, hey, come to my school. We got you. Okay. Now he's here and you have to coach him, teach him, help him get to where he wants to go. And by the way, it's never going to be as smooth of a road as possible. And to do all of that, I mean, it takes experience, it takes know-how. And I think sometimes the inexperience, that's where that person, those are first time moments. And when you don't pass the test there, it could go the other way. So I wouldn't say it's the age as much as, are you good at it or are you not good at it? Like, for example,
I think Drew's really, really good at it. You know who else is good at it? Griff Aldrich. The Longwood Lancers out of the Big South were the other team that locked up an automatic bid today, beating Winthrop down in Charlotte at the Bojangles Coliseum.
Love Bojangles.
Great place, right? It's one of the more remarkable stories, though. Aldrich is a former lawyer, also the CEO of an oil and gas company. He's orchestrated one of the most impressive turnarounds probably in college basketball, guys. Took over in 2018, and they never had a winning record in conference play. They were 7-26 the year before he took over. This year, 15-1 in league play, and they won the league tourney. We caught up with Aldrich earlier today to find out why Longwood can play the role of Cinderella. You were there for the UMBC upset over Virginia. So why can this team pull a similar upset? Because you know you're going to be seated somewhere in that probably 15-16 range. You're going to get a big boy. You know that. You're going to get a Duke, maybe a Kentucky, whoever it is, a Gonzaga. Why can this team pull up a similar upset?
Well, I think we've got I think we do have a lot of, strong offensive firepower that is really good. I do think we're starting to hit on all cylinders defensively. Today was probably one of our best defensive games. I know we made a lot of shots in the first half, and maybe that fueled our defense. But at the same time, I think our mental approach was really on point. So I think if we're able to defend, I think we're going to have the offensive firepower. The other thing that I do think helps mid-majors against some of, in fact, I was talking to Isaiah Wilkins about this, about the difference between Power 5 and mid-major. He said the guards are so much faster at our level oftentimes. Or it maybe not the point guard, but the 2 and the 3 are faster. They're just not as big. Yeah. And so maybe there's a chance, depending upon the matchup, where we could, use our quickness to create some problems for people.
Well, listen, congrats. Thanks for joining us. If there's any question in your mind, if you can coach, I think you answered that question today in this season. So congrats. And
thanks so much.
You'll find out who you're playing a week from today. So congrats and enjoy.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Appreciate you having us on.
No, you got it. All right, that was Longwood head coach Griff Aldrich. Punch his ticket today. There's now 3 teams that have automatic bids. Murray State out of the OVC. We got Longwood, and we've got Loyola Chicago out of Missouri Valley. We've also got a bunch of teams that are, I think we got 2 tomorrow, guys. We have the SoCon.
SoCon's tomorrow. That's
and the Sun Belt are both tomorrow. Furman, Chattanooga in the SoCon and the Sun Belt. I know Louisiana's playing. I'm not sure who they're playing at this point. When we come back, this year's Player of the Year and Coach of the Year races, no shortage of candidates. I flipped. You flopped. We're going to give our final picks. Final picks. Now that the regular season's over. This is it, guys. We're going to put it in stone when we come back.
Clear, 90 seconds.
All right, I got a Big Ten question for you here from W.R. Gadsby. He says, Tom Izzo is the winningest coach in Big Ten history with the win today. Where does he rank? Where does he rank as best coaches in Big Ten history?
Well, I would say the best coach in Big Ten history is Bob Knight, regardless of Coach Izzo's record. But if you guys look it up, take Coach Knight's tenure and then take Coach Izzo's tenure and just mirror them. They're almost identical.
Really?
It's an incredible deal. His decades after Coach Knight, really, Coach Knight kind of started to move on. And then when he left Indiana, kind of Coach Izzo started right up. Those two runs between Coach Knight and Coach Izzo are eerily similar in terms of record Final Fours. The only thing that's different is Coach Knight obviously knocked 3 national championships out, and Coach Izzo's had 1, but he's been there 8 times. It's the same as I think Coach Knight was there 7 or 8, but Coach Knight's probably the best. I would say Coach Izzo's 2, and then I would put Coach Katie as 3.
Interesting.
Thad Matta 4.
Thad Matta 4.
I mean, Coach Matta and Coach Thad and Bo Ryan's win percentage is probably 1, 2. And
10.
They're incredible. I just don't
All
know.
right, 10 seconds. Yes or no, Sean? Does Thad Matta coach again? Yes or no?
No.
All right, there you have it. That would be sad to me. All right, welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. I am Jeff Goodman of Stadium. I'm joined by Sean and Archie Miller. And it is time, boys. We have hemmed, we have hawed, we have flipped and flopped, and National Player of the Year award has been, I'm telling you, I think it's, and Archie's going to fight me on this because he's had a guy for months, and I've had a guy for months, and Sean's probably had several guys for months. But I think it's been wide open. I really do. I don't think there's been a clear front runner.
February 1st.
February 1st.
I think on February 1st, everyone was playing for second place.
All right. That's fair. That's fair. Arch, since you have, again, you've been ahead of the curve here, which is tipping my hat a little bit.
He's been behind the curve too now. I mean, he's both ahead and behind. Depends what you want to bring up.
He just makes things up.
We'll find out what he's behind the curve on later, Sean.
There's a lot of footage and recordings. A lot of the fabrications that he blows up are not true. I said something one time and it ends up becoming 4 weeks worth of stuff. Oscar Tshiebwe is the National Player of the Year in a runaway.
Yeah, I second
that. What he did this season for Kentucky the whole time through, even when they were trying to figure themselves out. If you think about it, when they didn't know anything about their team, he got 20 and 20 against Duke. And then in the last game of the regular season here the other day, I think he gets 26 and 15, just staggering numbers, historic numbers. Yep. The role he plays on a great team. Oscar should win the National Player of the Year.
Hey, he's really good on defense too. I mean,
great.
Everybody talks offense. Yep. You take him off the floor, Kentucky's defense suffers, but he is the most important player. He's the most productive player. And guess what? His team has a chance to win it all. He's a National Player of the Year.
You know what? I fought it with Johnny Davis. And I guess, again, I go back to, I want to take Johnny Davis on Wisconsin and say, like, they're not good without him. Now, you could do the same thing with Oscar. You could do it with every guy who's going to be in the equation for the National Player of the Year award. But ultimately, that's kind of what I did with Johnny. And Wisconsin had been so much better than any of us thought they'd be. But I'm there now. I mean, listen, this guy's averaging 17 and 15. And he plays so damn hard and plays with such an infectious personality. So I think, again, all of the Kentucky players, they stand around, they watch him because they just expect him. He's going to get every rebound. They don't even try for a rebound team because they know it's a lost cause. He gets everyone in practice.
I'm confused. Are you talking about Johnny Davis or Oscar?
Oscar, not okay. Johnny Davis.
Who are you? Are you voting for Oscar?
He's picking.
Yes.
He picked Oscar.
Thank you. I was going to say, like, you must have an already scheduled trip to Madison, Wisconsin. If you're going to, I look. It's just your point's well taken, Jeff. I mean, have we seen a guy recently put up the numbers in the SEC conference for? How about when they went to Kansas?
Right.
With that game,
dominated
for Kansas,
killed him.
He is a monster. He's a monster.
I think sometimes we want to fall in love with a guy that can make a play off the bounce, right? Like it's different than the big who's just going to overpower. And Oscar's big, but I'm telling you, if you put Oscar up next to Kofi,
not close.
He's so much smaller. Yeah, so much smaller. Like in person, again, he's jacked and all that, but he is not nearly as big as what you might think he is. Seeing him on TV. All right, so we all agree now, player of the year, unanimously giving it to Oscar. Coach of the year. Sean, we'll start with you. I think you're going to go with your boy here, but I could be wrong.
I'm going to go with Ed Cooley, but I'm going to back it up with some rationale. All right. Number one, he accomplished something in the history of Providence that has not been accomplished before. It's a first. It's a first time. The second part of it is he was totally responsible. Ed has been there for a long time in the Big East Conference as the head coach for Providence. He's built the infrastructure. He's gone through the tough times. He's gone through the great times. He is the person in charge of that basketball program and has been in charge for a period of time. To see his team accomplish what they've done this year in some magical moments, what his team has meant to Providence as a city, the university, the Big East Conference, I think it's the story of the year. And he did the best job, especially when you consider the talent and the players that he has, and they're good. But there are a lot of other programs that have as good or better talent. But what Ed has achieved, I think he's the national coach of the year.
Arch?
My national coach of the year until probably 4:00 was Greg Gard.
Yeah.
And Greg Gard lost at home to Nebraska, so he lost the Coach of the Year award today.
Yeah, that's a tough blow for him.
Wow, that's a brutal loss.
Greg Gard had Coach of the Year for the last month in my book until today. So it was a tough loss for him. But I'm going to go with Scott Drew.
Good pick.
He won the best conference through the most adversity, and he is a number 1 seed off of 4 guys losing off the national championship team. And he arguably will be one of the favorites to win it again. Look at the injuries, the games missed. He replicated as good of a year as you could possibly have in the toughest conference in the country, and did it with a lot of adversity in terms of the lineup. And I just feel like what he did this season, if they were healthy and full boat the whole year, I think they would have been a clear head and shoulders number 1 team in the country. But they still managed to be right there again. I think Scott Drew should win national coach.
All right. My pick, and we're going to close with this, Mark Adams, also in the Big 12, 23-8, 12-6, third in the Big 12. Nobody had him anywhere near there. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you join us every night tomorrow night. Me, Steve Probe, Rob Doster, 2 more bids in the line again in the SoCon and Sun Belt. We'll see you tomorrow.
Who'd you give freshman of the year to?
All clear.
We're going to go through that now. We're going to go through that in the afters. Freshman of the year. I'll start with that one. I gave it a Chet. I just think he's been so dominant on kind of both ends of the court. I mean, so dominant defensively, and that's where he differentiates himself from Jabari, to me, and Paolo. And he's shooting the hell out of the ball. I know it's in the WCC, but the WCC is better, more balanced than it's been, I guess is probably the better word, because BYU's not better, certainly not in league play, than they've traditionally been. But St. Mary's, man, Randy Bennett, I wanted to put Randy Bennett in the conversation for Coach of the Year. We saw, Sean, you've seen them numerous times.
Yeah.
What he's done with that group is ridiculous.
And he does it every year. It's a version of each year. It's kind of what Scott Drew's doing as a 1 seed, Randy Bennett's doing, as a tournament team. But yeah, what he does, how he does it, it's remarkable. He's been there for 21 years, Jeff. And I go back when I came to Arizona and watched his program then. And right now it's, 13 years later, there's certain years when he's a little bit more talented or a little bit more experienced, but for the most part, the most consistent team you can have and program you can have, especially where they're located and what they have.
Yeah.
Such a small place, you know?
No doubt. No doubt. All right. Listen, what's more important than peace of mind? Nothing. That's what NordVPN is here for, to give you peace of mind while you're online. And with all the threats that you face today on the internet, it's more important than ever to be sure that you have the best VPN you can get. NordVPN, the world's leading VPN service, offering the fastest connectivity, the most servers, and next-gen encryption to make sure that everything you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use NordVPN on all your computers and devices, no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you never have to worry about a slow connection, and plans start at under $4 a month. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/believe, BLEAV, or use the code BLEAV. That's BLEAV to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan, plus one additional month for free. All right, so I went Chet. Anybody going a different route than Chet?
Smith. I'm going to stick with Jabari.
Well, you love,
Smith.
Listen, there's no bigger fan on the planet. You were ahead of the game. Listen, Sean, we got to give him credit on that one too.
Yep.
I watched that Atlantis tournament. There was only one guy I centered in on in terms of the way he moved and whatnot. I think he's going to be a great pick. Hopefully he's the number one pick or whatever, but I think he's going to be a great pro. But he has an unbelievable responsibility on that team to be a go-to player. He's in a toughest conference other than the Big 12 in the country. They won the league outright. He had some monster games. To me, he's the freshman of the year nationally.
That's fair.
I agree. And now here's all I would say. The two freshmen, Kendall Brown and Jeremy Sokan at Baylor, are studs. They almost don't get as much credit as they deserve because there's two of them. They almost take from one another when it comes to like a national freshman of the year conversation. But I think if you talk to anybody in the Big 12 playing against Baylor, part of Baylor's secret sauce this year is they incorporated two freshmen and they became two of their best defensive players. How many times can you say that? And you look at their versatility, their size, their length, how they defend and the plays they make. I mean, that's one reason why Baylor has stayed on course in spite of the injuries. And I know Sokan went down for a period of time, but Arch, correct me if I'm wrong, when Sokan went down, that was a period of time where Baylor struggled maybe the most.
They lost.
Yeah.
They lost.
Sokan and Kendall Brown, you know, I agree. Jabari, I would go with him as well for the National Freshman of the Year. But I think watching Baylor, those two players are terrific. They really are.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Kendall Brown to me is a guy that if he was at a different program, he might be averaging 16 points a game. You know, to me, he personifies this Baylor team because he doesn't try to do more. And I told him that when I was there a few weeks ago. I said, everything you're doing is right. You'll get your opportunities later on in life, but you are impacting winning in the ideal way. You don't complain. You don't force anything. You're not worried about your draft stock. You play hard. He makes every right decision. Mm-hmm. That's what I love about Kendall Brown.
Yeah, I agree.
He's good.
All right. Let's go through some questions. Greg.
All right, so I want to put you guys. I'm here. I want to put you guys through a little speed round.
Go first team All-American. Go first team All-American.
All right, we'll go first. All right, we'll go first team All-American while we're waiting.
Go ahead. First team All-American.
Ready?
Yep.
We all agree on Oscar. We all agree on Johnny Davis, I assume.
I have Johnny Davis.
John?
Yes.
Do we all agree on Ochai Agbaji?
Yes.
Do we all agree on Keegan Murray?
I have Keegan second team.
So do I.
Okay.
I have Colin Gillespie and Kofi.
I have Kofi as well. Sean?
My first team is Oscar, Drew Timme. Everybody forgets about Drew Timme.
Yep,
he's the best player on the number one team in America. Ochai Agbaji at Kansas. speaks for itself. Ben Mathurin in Arizona, number 1 seed, Pac-12 player of the year. If you really look closely at what he's done, it's second to none. And I'm going to go with Jaden Ivey just because I think he, from a talent perspective, transcends Purdue. That's my 5. Oscar, Drew Timme, Abaji, Ben Mathurin, and Jaden Ivey, top 5, first team All-American.
Yeah, I went with Colin Gillespie. I think he's the best winner in college basketball. I think he's on the best team in the Big East, even though they didn't win it. And I think at the end of the day, if Villanova is to win the Big East championship again and move on in the tournament, he'll continue to play. If you look at his numbers, they're great. Johnny Davis, Agbaji, Oscar, and Kofi. And Kofi delivered on a Big Ten title. He averages 21 and 10.5. He may beat Johnny Davis for the Big Ten Player of the Year based on that last day of the season today.
Jeff, you confused me. Just so I'm clear, Johnny Davis was first team, and Jaden Ivey was second team. So I went
for you.
Yeah, I went. Yeah, I mean, if I was voting, that's a tough call because I love Jaden Ivey, but
I do too.
Winning Johnny Davis and Ben Mathurin, Abaji, Drew Timme, and Oscar. That's my first team All-American. Now, second team All-American, like the top 10 players.
Yep.
I have Jaden Ivey, right?
Yep.
So Johnny Davis is first team. Jaden Ivey is second team. Keegan Murray, Kofi, JD Note.
Yep, me too.
Colin Gillespie. And just the note to Mama Hog, I have JD Note as an All-American. Arch did not vote for him on the All-American team. You did not
get him.
Mama Hog's not going to be mad at me at the end of the day.
She will.
She is.
I've been a fan of the Hogs, and I've picked them. I thought they did a hell of a job this weekend coming back in that game.
Arch.
Mama Hog's
Archie's trying to kiss up to her now. Look at this.
Mad at me.
13 out of 14. They've won 13 out of 14, 12 out of 13, something like that. In the SEC, they're one of the hottest teams in America. JD Note, defense, offense. I mean,
everything.
He just is a playmaker. He is a stud. And you didn't pick him on your All-American team. Let me just make sure.
My second team All-American team is Keegan Murray, Drew Timme, Ben Mathurin, EJ Liddell, and Jaden Ivey. I didn't pick JT Note. He's on my third team All-American. So
there's only 2 teams.
He made third team All-American with Walker, Kessler, him.
Mama Hog, that's the fear you've created. He's so scared he created a fictitious third team. There is no third team.
Yes, there is third team All-American.
Your boy Kirk Reese is trying to jump in the chat and type something in, but he can't figure it out.
He didn't get All-American too?
He might be pissed at us.
Your sweatshirt. He's looking at your sweatshirt.
I know. I told him. That's what I said. I said, like, you gotta look at my sweatshirt. I'm wearing it. Actually, in full transparency, I did not know Kerr played for Zagros. I was out in Lithuania a few years ago with the Knucklehead crew. That's what I call the Ball brothers now, the Knucklehead crew. Actually, I just call LeVar that. But yeah, it was. I actually loved it over there. I had a blast. Other than the fact that for the first 7 days, I couldn't go too far from LeVar because if you went too far, you never knew what he was capable of saying or doing or whatever. So you had to be within a
change the subject. Zach,
all right, thank you.
We got it.
Yep.
You got it.
Yep.
Change the subject.
Gotcha. All right. Let's do some questions in here.
I got questions for you. I'm here.
Right,
I got questions. First of all, we got Squirrel in the chat saying 333 people are watching, but only 128 likes. What is that about? You're right, Squirrel. Hit that like button if you're in the YouTube. MC Lee, my guy, wants to know who's going to win the Big East. And then as a follow-up, we got Ken Palm is a fraud asking for the winners of all Power 6 conferences. So can we do a quick speed round? Can we fly through the 6 Power conferences?
I'm trying to show Kerr my sweatshirt first.
Start with the Big East. Who you guys got winning the Big East?
We're talking about the tournament now?
Yeah, Big East tournament. Who you have winning the Big East tournament?
Villanova. Yeah.
Do you?
They're not. Listen.
Point guard play. Colin Gillespie.
He's the guy. Like you said, Arch, he's the guy you trust more than anybody else. It's not a strong point guard year, but you two of anybody should understand how important point guard play is. And that dude he's just like a rock. Like he is so solid with everything he does. And Villanova is so solid with everything they do.
Yep. Plus they didn't win the regular season.
Right.
And they, you know what, if they win the Big East tournament, the seed line could move or they solidify where they're at. And I think they're highly motivated to go to New York City and put it all together. And a year ago, by the way, Colin Gillespie wasn't able to play in the Big East tournament because he got hurt. I just think that they're going to be the team that wins it.
All right, let's move to another one. Let's go to Big Ten. Who you got in the Big Ten tournament?
Big Ten tournament, I'm going to go with Illinois. I think Illinois has got the best defense, combination of really good offense. They have the big boy inside. They get the 1 seed. To me, Illinois is trying to repeat with that thing. They'll have a great following in Indianapolis as well. So I have Illinois. I think Illinois can win it. Their route is a little easier.
Purdue.
Archie's given up on Ohio State finally.
They're too banged up.
Yeah.
Purdue. You know what, though? I agree with Purdue.
Maybe a good thing for them if they hold their guys and try to save it and make the run in the NCAA tournament. They
get healthy.
Too many guys out.
I know. No, you're right. The positive of all that, the only actually, it's not going to be a positive because he's going to lose them. Malachi Branham got this opportunity largely because they've been banged up and Justice Suing was hurt and really he's missed the whole year. But Branham's going to end up, you watch, he's going to be a top 15, 20 pick. He's going to leave after this year.
He's a big time player.
Yep. He is.
But Purdue, the offensive power that they have, the experience, and they've pointed towards March for a long, long time. This team pointed towards March as far back as a year earlier, right? How good they could become. And March is here. The tournament's in Indianapolis. I'm going to go with the Purdue boys.
Sean, I would agree with you because I've been on Purdue's offense, and I think they have the size and the combination with Jaden Ivey. But their defense hasn't improved. And Indiana picked them apart with the ball screen offense this past weekend. Could have, should have, however you want to say it, right there to win the game. And I really believe that Purdue is going to suffer a defeat against somebody because they cannot defend in the half court against any type of pick and roll, really good point guard play. If they deal with a really good guard,
isn't it amazing? We're saying this about a Matt Painter team, guys.
It's the lowest ranked
personnel
he's probably had in 7-8 years. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure he's tried. I'm sure he's spent 90% of his time on defense. Right.
I will say though,
in their case, maybe the stress of the overall pressure of being good, got to win the Big Ten. Maybe this alleviates that going to the Big Ten tournament. They play a little bit more freely, and they head into the NCAA tournament playing well. They're good enough offensively, but if you just look at some of the power teams, even some of the middle of the road teams that have great guard play, pick and roll offenses, Purdue's going to have to figure something out here because they really only have one answer when Big Edie's in the game, and he's got to sit back. And it's not a good feeling. I can tell you that. Some of the shots that teams are getting.
I'm going to go with my friend Ken Pomeroy, and he said it, and I'm going to roll with him all the way through until April. Great offense beats great defense in March. And Matt Painter and Purdue, I'm going to go 2 for 2. Villanova in the Big East and Purdue in the Big Ten. Now, Arch, you never picked the Big East. Who'd you pick in the Big East?
My Big East tournament team that I think is going to win it is Seton Hall.
Okay.
Wow.
And then who do you have in the Big Ten again? So we're clear.
Illinois.
Okay. Got it. Jeff, who do you have?
I got Villanova and Purdue. I don't think Purdue. I actually like Illinois more in the NCAA tournament, but I like Purdue in the Big Ten tournament.
Yep.
What else we got, Greg?
I want to get the ACC in here, and then we can move on from the conference tournament stuff. But our friends at Bet Rivers have ACC to win Duke to win the ACC tournament as the clear favorite, as they should. Every other team in the conference is 8-1 or higher. So let me pose it to you as this. If you had to pick one side, either Duke wins this tournament or any other team wins this tournament, which side are you on?
After Saturday night, the Duke Blue Devils are going to be rip roaring and ready to play in this tournament. They're going to
I'll
win
second
this
that.
tournament.
I'll second that.
I didn't see, by the way, you guys didn't see what I picked up in Durham, did you? You see my guy?
I know
my guy agrees with you. He agrees with you.
I know this much. All that celebration is over.
Yeah.
That stuff is all gone. If they're going to make a run, they're going to get their heads on straight. And this is a perfect launch pad for them here in Greensboro.
Sean, you think though that this Carolina team could look different from here on out, don't you?
I mean, think about what they just did. If you're the coach or you're a player on that team and you went in to Cameron Indoor Stadium with what was at stake, with the nation's eyes on you, and you played like that and you won that game as your last regular season game, who could feel better or be more confident about who they are as a team than Carolina in the first round of the ACC tournament? And where is the tournament this year?
I think it's in Greensboro.
It is.
If it's in Greensboro,
it is.
I'll tell you, don't be surprised if they don't go all the way.
Do you know what the I know they have a double bye. ACC's got they probably don't play till late. Do you know their route? They're the 2 seed, I believe.
I'll try to look it up while we're on. So here's my question to you guys.
Doesn't matter. Duke's winning.
Arch, if you said to and you know this rivalry, you know the Duke Carolina rivalry because you grew up not far, you went to school not far from there. But Carolina fans, if you had told them before the season, you'd get your ass kicked by like 7 teams, but you will beat Duke and you will beat them on arguably the most important night of Coach K's career, would they have signed up for that in a heartbeat?
100%.
100%.
That
Really?
win, I'm going to tell you this much.
Yeah.
That win that they just had this past weekend, other than their national championships, that one may mean more to their fans than the national. I mean, other than the national championships, or maybe some other wins versus Duke that were important to close out that game with all that was at stake. I think ranks right below probably their 5 national titles. It's probably the 6th most important win they ever got.
What was your bracket question about the ACC? I got it.
Who's playing into Carolina?
So they'll get probably Virginia because Virginia plays the winner of Louisville, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I'm going to say my take on Carolina is this. If you let them play freely, their talent shows, especially at the guard play. If RJ Davis and Caleb Love play well, they're very good. A team like Virginia, I don't like that matchup for Carolina. They make it ugly. They put it in the half court. It's not as fun and up and down. Yeah. And that's why I think North Carolina is good enough to go to a Sweet 16. I mean, if you watch them play the other night, their talent showed. I don't think that's any question. They're going to they have to win though, Jeff. Carolina needs to get to the championship and see if they can get out of that 7, 8, 9.
Right. Right now, they're probably like 9, if I had to guess.
I mean, they'd rather be in 11 than a 7 through 10 to play the 1s and the 2s. If they could get a 6, I don't think they can, but if they could get a 6, that would be. But to have them in the second round versus, I don't know who the other 2 seeds are, but at the end of the day, Carolina's good enough to advance.
You're gonna talk about like a Kansas, potentially could be a Kentucky or an Auburn. Those will be a 2.
Yeah, I mean, all those teams, if they play the jump ball with North Carolina, there's not that much difference in terms.
There's not talent-wise.
I mean, Armando Bacot, he's the ACC Player of the Year. He could be on one of the All-American teams with the year that he had and the numbers that he had.
He was tough, man. He was really, really good. But RJ Davis was the difference, I thought, last night.
Manic being able to shoot the threes.
Yeah, but you know what? Yes, I agree. But Manic, whatever he gets you, he gives up on the other end a lot of times. Where RJ was good on both ends, and Bacot was I thought they were done when Bacot. You guys remember when he picked up his second foul?
Yep.
About half. 6 minutes left, maybe in the first half. He was begging to come back in. And Sean May's like, settle down. And then the lead goes, whatever it was, that's when Duke went in their run. They went up like 10 quickly. They flipped it so quick, and I thought they were done. And then he ended up putting Bacot back in. That's like, how hard is that for you guys to get a feel for a guy who's got 2 fouls, who's super important to your team? Do you guys have that kind of steadfast rule or no?
I don't. I think you have to have flexibility with it. First of all, there's a difference between, for example, TJ McConnell in his senior year playing at Arizona with 2 fouls, and then the score, and you're down 2 versus up 10, versus a freshman who's really, really talented. And again, the score in the game dictates that as well. But I think you really have to have a good sense and trust with the player that has 2 fouls in the first half.
The score means everything, I think, especially in that game. You go down double figures in the first half. I mean,
but you're almost waiting too long. That's what I thought there. I honestly thought they let the game get away from them, and it took too long. Fortunately, they made that shot at the end of the first half, which
RJ
was
Davis.
huge for them.
Yeah,
huge.
Big shot. Right. He's a good player.
The SEC tournament, that's going to be a great tournament. I picked Kentucky to win it, but I mean, you look at the quality there of those 6 teams or so. I mean, who's going to be there playing Kentucky in the championship if Kentucky is? I mean, I think that's going to be a great tournament. I really think. Same with the Big 12. I worry a little bit about the Big 12 I don't know if it's that bad if one of those teams bows out early that's already established themselves as a high seed, simply because, I mean, you can only play in so many quad 1 games. I mean, eventually you just need a break. I mean, to be able to give their team 48 hours of doing nothing and then really refresh themselves for the NCAA tournament, you almost worry about who wins that tournament, as they could be almost at a disadvantage based on how hard the season's been.
In the SEC tournament, the bracket, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't really tell who's playing in. The team that I wouldn't want to play in the SEC tournament is Tennessee and Arkansas. I think both of those 2 teams are really.
What about
good.
Alabama?
Alabama? What about?
He's making fun of you, Arch.
What about them?
Pick them as a national championship. That's a fact.
First of all, somebody has to get for the last time. It's the last day of the regular season. Somebody has to get that footage or the audio of me saying that.
Okay.
Fact check it.
Be careful what you wish for, Arch.
That's a fact.
I
love
believe
it.
I ever claimed that
careful
Alabama
what you-
was going to win the
Careful what you
national
wish for.
championship. Alabama can win a couple games in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, they're good.
I don't have the matchups in front of me, but
I'm looking now, but I don't have a good bracket.
who's the ultimate? I mean, Auburn is the one.
Alabama will get. It looks like they eventually get Kentucky in the quarters.
So Kentucky,
Tennessee.
Alabama?
Think about
Tennessee
how difficult that tournament
gets. Arkansas gets LSU probably, and then Arkansas has actually got a good. I think they got a fairly good draw here. Well, they get Auburn. Arkansas, Auburn could meet in the semis. Tennessee, Kentucky could meet in the semis.
I mean, think about those 2 games right there.
The 2
Those are
teams
really
in
good
the
games.
NCAA tournament that I like in the SEC tournament, Tennessee and Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, I think are going to be absolute stud teams. Kentucky,
all right,
is going to win.
Before we do our 3 cheers, I need both of your favorite conference tournament moments. And this is a loaded question. This is a completely loaded question for Sean, because my favorite conference tournament ever involved Sean Miller. I was front row. I was front row seat for the greatest conference tournament press conference in the history of press conferences.
I'm
He touched the ball. Can we just relive it? Can you just say it once?
I'll stick by it. He did touch the ball. He did. He touched the ball.
He did. He definitely did.
Show the footage again. But
how many times, Arts, did he say he touched the ball in that press conference?
He touched the ball. Touched the ball.
Yeah.
I think he said it probably 8. You ought to see the video of his son doing it at the Christmas table with a suit and tie on. He's probably
Really?
12. It's hysterical.
Yeah. I'll send that to you someday. Though, my greatest moment was as an assistant coach at Xavier. We were in UD Arena in the Atlantic 10. Phil Martelli and St. Joe's, they finished the regular season undefeated. A lot of people forget that. They never lost a single game. Jameer Nelson, Delonte West. They were great. They were a great college team. And we were with that team, Jeff. We had to win in the conference tournament to have a chance to make the NCAA tournament, to even make it.
Wow.
We played on the Wednesday, so we were seated like in the middle of the pack. We played them early. We didn't play them in the championship. We ended up playing them, I think, in the semis or quarterfinals. That shows you like where we came from as a team. But we not only beat them, but we ran them out of the gym.
Did you really?
And if you remember at Xavier, we then won 4 games in 4 days, including we beat Dayton at UD Arena.
Wow.
Packed house. They left like they usually did when we showed up. And then we got to the Elite Eight. Now, that was the team, Romaine Sato, Lionel Chalmers. That's the thing about March for conference tournament on a serious note. If you play your best on these neutral courts and you have players that catch fire and you can be at your absolute best and outperform a lot of times what you did during the regular season, it isn't a 7-game series. Right. You can get and you can blaze a trail. We lost to JJ Redick and we lost to Duke, and that game could have gone either way. I mean, it was as close of a loss as Duke. I mean, at the 4-minute media timeout, I think we had it at the tie game. So Duke won and they went on to the Final Four. But our season ended in the Elite Eight, and we needed to really win 4 games in 4 days, including beating the number 1 team in America who had not lost in the conference tournament. And by the way, had to beat Dayton on their home court to win the conference tournament championship. So that was Coach Thad Mata. And that was a special, you talk about a conference tournament you'll never, ever forget. That was mine.
Arch?
I mean, my favorite conference tournaments have always been in the ACC.
Yeah.
When we were playing, I mean, my senior year, we were in Charlotte in the old Coliseum, and we were playing against Virginia in the opening round. We beat them. We played the eventual national championship, Maryland Terrapins, in the semifinals on Saturday. They call it semifinal Saturday in the ACC championship. We beat them. We were the only team to beat them before they won the national championship. And then we played the ACC championship against Jay Williams and I believe it was Boozer and those guys. All those guys that lined the floor the other night that Coach K was in, that team was special. We got blitzed in the championship, but just the ACC tournament in general, as a player and then as a coach, with her being able, we may have played that team in 2004 that you played in the Elite Eight. We had them beat. Julius Hodge and those guys, I think, were sophomores or maybe sophomores with Josh Powell. We were up by 18 points in the ACC title game against Duke, and JJ Redick put on one of the most incredible championship game performance. I mean, I think he had like 18 straight points. I mean, he was hitting them, running every direction.
How much shit was he talking in that game?
He was talking a lot of shit, but Mike Wood cheated us so bad it wasn't even funny. I don't even think Mike Wood has reffed another game since then.
Since then, that was it.
But the ACC tournament, great tournament.
Are we going to talk at all about the Pac-12 tournament? It's in
no.
Do they have one?
In Vegas?
No, I'm going to the title game. I'm going.
If it's UCLA in Arizona, it'll be a great.
It will, right?
No doubt. Great.
I'm going to go.
UCLA has to beat USC again.
Yes, they do. I'm going to do Mountain West. I'm going to do Mountain West title game. It's at 3, and then the Pac-12 I think is at 6. So
that Mountain West title is going to be scary.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Playing at home, they're good.
Are you guys going, Sean? Are you going to go see St. Mary's or no?
I'm not sure. I'm not going to see him in Vegas, but I might see him in the tournament.
Got it. Yeah. All
All
right, let's do our 3 cheers. And I'm working on about 3.5 hours sleep, so I'm feeling it right now. So 3 cheers. Start with Arch. Let's give Sean a little bit of time.
He's gonna cheer something that didn't happen in the last 48 hours. So here's what I'm gonna cheer. This is incredible. I'm going to cheer Fog Allen Fieldhouse for 39 straight senior day wins.
Think about that.
Is that right?
I have never heard of a number.
Here's that stat stuff. Here's that stat stuff again.
That's
man.
crazy.
The most insane number I've ever heard. They've won 39 straight senior days in Fog Allen.
Holy shit.
How about the other stat? Bill Self has 16 Big 12 regular season championships.
16
losses. And he has 16 home losses.
Imagine. That's great.
I don't think he gets enough credit. I know I've said it and said it and said it, but that's a great cheer right there, Arch. And by the way, that didn't happen today, right?
No, they played yesterday.
Right. So there we go.
He's making fun of you.
It's open.
Wait, let's get his cheer on the thing. Let's see where he goes with it.
All right. What do you got? What do you got, John?
I mean, my cheer is the cheer of the year from day one. I mean, first opening night, November 11th, if someone said this was going to happen, everybody in the world would cheer it. That's a Carolina fan. They went to Cameron Indoor Stadium on Coach K's last game.
Yep.
And it was 3 or 4 day coverage, right? The tickets were selling for this. They had 90, 100 of the great former players sitting there. And they went in as an unranked North Carolina team and they kicked their ass. They kicked their ass. I mean, that wasn't one of those at the buzzer threes. That was from the 8-minute mark of the second half to 0. They imposed their will. Duke could not stop North Carolina. And you have to toast not just Hubert Davis and the Carolina basketball team, but I think that's a toast for anybody that loves North Carolina. What an amazing event this weekend.
Yeah, I'm happy for Hubert. I'm happy for Hubert because he had taken enough crap this year, and they delivered some. All right, I'm going to toast to Bob Marlin, a guy I met probably about 15 years ago. One of the first guys I met in this business at a Final Four, and 8-seeded Louisiana beat Troy today, and they will face Georgia State in the Sun Belt title game tomorrow night. So we may really be toasting 62-year-old Bob Marlin tomorrow night if they can pull the ultimate upset and get there in the Sun Belt title game as the 8th seed and win this thing and get an automatic bid. So Bob Marlin, here you go.
It's going to be tough sledding. Nobody's hotter than Georgia State.
Yeah, they were cold for a while too. They're picked first. They're picked to win the league.
Now. We're hot. Who you got tomorrow night? Great conference tournament championship. Furman, Chattanooga.
I'm going Chattanooga. They got an awesome player. Malachi Smith is awesome. So I'm going Chat. I'm going
with Furman. They're going to break through.
Bob Ritchie, if he can break through, he'll probably there's going to be a bunch of jobs open in the SEC. So
dominoes.
Yeah, there'll be some dominoes too, no doubt. All right. Well, listen, thanks for joining me again, John, Arch. Always a pleasure. A week from tonight, the three of us will be on right when the brackets are unveiled. So make sure you join us a week from tonight. These guys will study up and we'll be ready to go. So